Awesome. Okay, right, let's go. So on the board, I have sort of listed out the topics for homeostasis and response. The one on the right is for combined. The one on the left is for triple. The one on the left you can see has that extra topic of plant hormones. So that's what we're going to go through today. We're going to go through plant hormones. Okay, so let's go straight into it. So tropisms. Tropisms controlled by hormones. Plants produce plant hormones called auxins to coordinate and control growth. Guys, that sentence in itself needs to be written down. So plants produce plant hormones called auxins to coordinate and control growth. Now, you've obviously heard this as in your time in science. Hormones, they are used obviously to trigger change, trigger growth, control growth. They are no different from plants. So plants produce plant hormones called auxins to coordinate, control growth. Plants need to be able to grow in response to light, so phototropism, and gravity, gravitropism. Can never pronounce that word. Or geotropism. So in response to light and gravity. The shoots must grow upwards, away from gravity and towards light, so that leaves are able to absorb sunlight. So this is obviously the purpose. So the shoots grow upwards, okay, away from gravity, towards light, and this is so leaves can get sunlight, right? They can absorb sunlight. Shoots show a positive phototropic response and a negative gravitotropic response. We'll talk about more of that in a second. So they grow in favor of phototropic, or stuff to do with light, photos to do with light, and negative in terms of gravity. So they're growing away from the ground, away from gravity. Roots need to grow downwards, okay, into the soil, away from sunlight and towards gravity, in order to anchor the plant and absorb water. This is really important. Anchor the plant, absorb water. We always forget this stuff from soil particles. So roots show a negative phototropic response and a positive gravitotropic response. So if I were to put roots and shoots, and I wrote down the word positive phototropic, where would you put that word under, roots or shoots? Well done. Okay, and then if I was to write negative gravitotropic, where would you put that? Good. That would also be shoots. So on the flip side, negative phototropic is roots, and positive gravitotropic is roots. Okay, so just remember that. What does negative gravitotropic mean? What's the definition for that? Good. Yeah, so you can get said grows against or grows away from gravity. Okay. What are the two things that roots and shoots sort of, or these hormones respond to? So auxins, what do they respond to? Good. Actually, I shouldn't have written auxins. Sorry, hormones. What do plant hormones respond to? Plant hormones respond to light and gravity. Yeah? Awesome. Are we good on that front, yeah? So let's move on. Oh, what's another word for gravitotropism? Gravitotropism. That's it. Geotropism. Let's move on, people. Okay, so the gravitotropism and the phototropism table. Let's go. So, stimulus. Name of response, gravitotropism, sometimes called geotropism. So stimulus is the change, okay, and gravitotropism is the hormone or is the response. So how the plant responds. So growth towards or away from gravitational pull, and what is the positive response? Growth towards gravity, okay. And what is the negative response? Growth away from gravity. So for roots, they have a positive response, as we just discussed, and shoots have a negative response. And then here you have, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just in a table almost. Okay. Do we understand what's going on here? Cool. Okay, let's move on. Okay, auxins are produced in the tips of the shoots and roots. They diffuse to the cells behind the tips. They diffuse to the cells behind the tips and have the following effects. Okay. So both basically shoots and roots have tips, and these auxins, they diffuse, okay, to the cells behind the tips. So, when I say behind the tips, let's say for example that's the tip, right? So this, if that's the tip, then the cells would be here. The cells behind it. Okay. In shoots, auxins promote cell elongation. So in shoots, auxins promote cell elongation. So more auxin means more cell elongation, and more cell elongation is more growth. So this is exactly the wording I want you to remember it as. So shoots promote in the shoots, auxins promote cell elongation. More auxin, more cell elongation, and more cell elongation, more growth. Guys, let me know once you got that yellow statement. Awesome. So in the shoots, remember shoots, roots. Okay, so in the shoots, what are auxins doing? Promoting cell elongation, more auxin, more cell elongation, more growth. In the roots, auxins inhibit. They inhibit cell elongation. So more auxin, less cell elongation, less growth. That needs to be noted down as well. Now, just to remember, what did we say? We said shoots Does it have a positive response or a negative response? For let's say, for example, we're talking about the shoots. So let's say for phototropism, does it have a positive response or a negative response? Good. So positive response means more growth, and negative response literally means less growth. So auxins can, depending on where it is, will have a different response, positive or negative. So you can pretty much predict what's going to happen for gravitotropism. The distribution of auxins in the shoots is affected by light and gravity, whereas the distribution in the roots is primarily affected by gravity alone. So if a shoot or root is placed on its side, auxins will accumulate along the lower side as a result of gravity. So the uppermost side has a lower auxin concentration. That's quite a fully loaded statement there. So let's break that down. So if a shoot or root is placed on its side, so a shoot or a root is placed on its sides, auxins will accumulate along the lower side. So these dots represents auxins as a result of gravity. So the uppermost side has lower. So this is high and this is low. Okay. In the shoots, the lower side grows faster, okay, than the upper side. So in the shoots, so what have I drawn here? So here I have drawn a, it says if a shoot or root is placed on the auxins, so here we have the auxins accumulating. In the shoots, the lower side grows faster. So I think there's a better diagram coming up, which I'll show you in a second, but let's try and turn this into like a diagram. So in the shoots, the lower side grows faster. So if this is a shoot, okay, the lower side grows faster, so there's a lot of growth. So if there's a lot of growth here, what will happen to this thing? It will start to curl this way. Do you get it? You remember when I gave you that example of the Segway? If this wheel moves faster and this one is slower, will this go anti-clockwise or clockwise? This is a Segway, yeah? Hold that question, Krish. So if this is a Segway, if the left wheel is moving faster, can you see how it will go clockwise? If they're moving at the same speed, it will go straight. And if this one was moving faster, the one on the right, it will go anti-clockwise. Okay? So let's look at the roots. In the roots, so we draw a sideway thing there. In the roots, the lower side grows slower. So again, what does it say? If a shoot or root is placed on the auxins, will accumulate along the lower side. So let's put them on the lower side. Okay, as a result of gravity. So the uppermost side will have a lower. So this is lower. This is higher. Are you guys understanding this diagram? Yeah. In the roots, the lower side grows slower. Now, why does the lower side grow slower, even though the auxins are here? Let's see if we can answer that question. Why does the lower side grow slower, even though the auxins are there? I want you to think of some maths symbols. I want you to think of some math symbols. Think of the words we just discussed. You're thinking the right thing, but I want you to think of the words we just discussed. Okay, so basically you see how this is the root. Even though the hormones are accumulating on the lower side, Why does the side where there's no auxins grow faster? And just to remind you, this is a root. Yeah, so if you remember, with roots, yeah, auxins, what if impact does auxins have on the root? So auxins, is it got a negative response or a positive response? On the roots. It's a negative response. Very good. So if it's a negative response on the roots, auxins, do they inhibit or promote? They inhibit cell elongation. And therefore, is it more growth or less growth? Fantastic, less growth. So because it's less growth, where is this going to curl? Is it going to curl up or down? It has to be down. Because look, all the growth is happening here. All the growth is happening at the top. So naturally it's going to curl down. And I give you the example of the Segway again. If you have a Segway, or in fact I should draw the Segway sideways. Does everyone understand the example of the Segway? So here's the Segway, right? You know those things that people used to stand on about 10 years ago. So here's a Segway, right? If this is slow, and if this is fast, this wheel is fast, and this one is slow, where is this Segway going? Up or down? So if you understand the physics there, it will do circles, but like, will it be clockwise or anti-clockwise? It won't be anti-clockwise. It'll go this way, which is clockwise. This way would have been anti-clockwise if it was going up. I'm going to show you another example. By the way, it's the unequal distribution which causes unequal growth rates, if that makes sense. In fact, I want you to write that down. So it's the unequal distribution which causes unequal growth rates, just like the Segway. If one wheel is moving faster, it doesn't go straight anymore. It goes down or goes up. Guys, can you write this statement down? I'm going to bring some information from the previous slide back in a minute. But just let me know once you got that written down. No worries, Adam. It's understandable. Okay, so unequal distributions of auxin cause unequal growth. Simple as that. Simple as that. Okay. Where are we? Oh, we're here. Okay. Okay, let's have a look. So it says, how do auxins control growth in the shoots? So auxin is mostly made in the tips of the growing shoots. Diffuses to the region behind the tip. So this is where they're made. They're made in the tips of the shoots. Synthesized, as you can see, they're synthesized. Now, can you see the cells? Yeah, can you see the cells? You got these cells here, and then the red things are the hormones. Are we on the same page, people? So the green things are the cells, and the red things are the auxins. So you can see where they are. This is step one, where they're made. Where they are made or synthesized. Now, auxins stimulate the cells behind the tip to get larger. Now, just a quick one. Auxins in shoots, okay, triggered by light, for example, for phototropism. Is this a positive response or a negative response? It's a positive response. Very good. So if it's a positive response, does that mean auxins cause elongation or inhibit elongation? Good. They promote cell elongation. Okay. So auxins stimulate the cells behind the tip to elongate and get larger. The more auxin there is, the faster they will elongate and grow. So auxins stimulate the cell behind the tip to elongate and get faster. The more auxins there is, the faster they will elongate and grow. This is important. This is an important point. Only the region behind the tip of the shoot is able to contribute to growth by the cell. Okay, guys, we got to break this down. Yeah, I understand there's a bit of we're getting back in the motion of lessons. So let's quickly read this one more time. Auxins stimulate the cells behind the tip to grow. Behind the tip. So really, it's these cells that are getting affected here. Let me get another color. It's these cells that are getting affected here. Okay, or this side as well. Because they're behind the tip, right? Okay, so auxins stimulate the cells behind the tip to elongate. The more auxin there is, the faster they grow. This is important. Only the region behind the tip of the shoot is able to contribute to growth by cell division and elongation. If light shines all around the tip, auxin is distributed. So back to the segue example one more time. If there's light everywhere, that means the auxins are distributed. So will these wheels move at the same speed? Yes, so the segue goes straight. It goes straight up. Yeah, because the light is everywhere. It doesn't need to go in any particular direction, right? So if light shines all around the tip, auxin is distributed, okay? If the shoot grows at the same rate, this is what normally happens when plants are still growing outside. When light shines on the shoot predominantly from one side, so for example, if you have the plant inside a house and you have a window on one side of the room, when light shines on predominantly one side though, the auxin produced in the tip concentrates on the shaded side. Okay, now can you see where the light is coming from? The light is coming from here. In this example, the light is coming from here. So can you see how the hormones counteract that change? They move to the opposite side, right? Can you see that? They counteract that change, so they go to the opposite side. So where do the cells start growing? Do they start growing at A, B, C, or D? Where did the cell start growing? Correct. It's B and C, mainly C. It's B and C, mainly C. Remember, this is phototropism, so this is a positive elongation. It's only for gravitotropism that you would say A and D. You get it? Because for shoots, it's a negative relationship with or response. Whereas with phototropism, it's a positive relationship. That means wherever auxins is, the cells right behind it will grow fast. Does that make sense? So behind it. So can you see these cells are behind it? They're behind the tip, and they're this is where the auxins have started to accumulate. Okay. So the light is this side. So the hormones go on the opposite side, and therefore the cells behind it start to grow. Okay. So when light shines on predominantly from one side, the auxin produced on the tip concentrates on the shaded side, making the cells on that side elongate and grow faster. This unequal growth on either side of the shoot causes the shoot to bend. So this is what I mean. If these wheels are going at different speeds, it will change the direction. That's how it turns as something that's only a two-wheeler, because there's no. It's not like a car where you have the front two wheels to change direction. So let's have a look here. It says uneven growth is caused by the uneven distribution. So you can see that here. Auxins will increase growth of cells in meristem. So will cause the shaded side to grow and elongate faster. Guys, can you just mention, yeah, that auxins will increase the growth in meristem? Because I think some of us will forget that forget to connect the dots. That this is meristem was something we learned before. Generates new cells. So can we just get that statement written down? Auxins will increase growth in this of the cell in the meristem. And can you also draw this diagram? I'll give you guys a few minutes. Just let me know when you're done. So draw the diagram, write down that statement. Oh, will grow. So auxins will increase the growth of cells in meristem. So you know how you get the meristem cells are here. It essentially causes them to grow in size, to increase in growth. Sorry. So the meristem basically is, you can just say, a plant tissue, for example, which where the cells have ability to become many different cells. It's like the stem cell for a plant. Basically, meristem is a type of cell tissue. It's not like the human where we have cells in our bone marrow. It's not like the meristem is not like, for example, a structure where those. It's not like a bone marrow. The bone marrow is where we get our should we say, our cells that can become anything. Do you get it? Cells with potential. But the meristem itself is plant tissue. So it's those plant tissue or those undifferentiated cells that grow. Thank you very much. Gonna give it like another minute. Awesome. Okay. So just a few facts that need to be literally revised word for word. Auxins are just one example of hormones found in plants. Here's another example, gibberellins. You probably notice this suffix here, ins. Okay. Do you guys remember? Actually, that's going really off topic, so I'll answer that now. But basically, you've probably noticed, yeah, this sounds the same. So gibberellins. The gibberellins are important for initiating seed germination, the process that occurs when seeds start to grow. So gibberellins is for seed germination. Gibberellins also have a role in inducing flowering and the growth of fruit. Anyone remember what flowering is? Probably remember it from year 7. Yeah, you could say yeah. So when basically the petals start to, basically when the flower starts to form. So you know when it starts to form petals, when it starts to form its flower. And why does a plant have that flower, should I say? Why does it have the nice colors? Why does it have the petals? Anyone know? Yeah, to attract bees. So really, the flower is the beginning of reproduction. It's like the first stage, right? So gibberellins, it literally triggers the first steps of reproduction in the plant. So when the flower starts to develop, flowering, and then the second thing is that gibberellins are important for seed germination, essentially when the seed starts to grow. So gibberellins is an important hormone for plants. Auxins is for growth, gibberellins is for reproduction, and then they spoke about ethene. So ethene is a gas released by plants which controls cell division and the ripening of fruits. So ethene is a gas released by plants which controls cell division and the ripening of fruits. Both gibberellins and ethene are used commercially. We're going to get to uses of hormones in a second. Guys, can you make sure you get that information down? It's really important. So we already know the first one. The second one, gibberellins, is important for germination. If you didn't remember what germination is, just write it down, which is the process of where the seed starts to grow. Gibberellins are important for flowering. This is where the plant starts to form the flower, which is essentially marks the beginning of reproduction. And then you got ethene, and this is what controls cell division and ripening. And that's quite, just like from a scientific perspective, that knowing the effect that ethene has on the ripening of fruits. Why is that useful? Kind of thinking like a scientist now. Why is that a useful thing? To control the ripening of fruits. True, true. Yep, so definitely in farming. I would say, like for example, fruits, they spend a long time at sea. Yeah. We may not want them to ripen in that process when they're spending the time in transit. We only want them to start ripening as soon as they land in the country where they're going to be sold, right? You don't want to ripen too early. So controlling the ripening of the fruit essentially means that you can elongate its life or control basically how long it lasts. Yeah, so preservation basically. Because once it's ripened, it's done. It's ready to eat. And if it's spent too long after that, then yeah, you're going to have a fruit which has probably gone off. Guys, let me know once that's noted down. We're going to move on. But before I move on, I just want to do a quick recap on just roots and shoots real quick. So here you have a root and a shoot. So for a root, what influences its, for a shoot, what influences its growth? It's two things, light and gravity. How about for a root? For a root, is it any different? Yeah, generally it's just gravity. Generally it's just gravity that has an impact. So, auxins is the plant hormone, okay? For roots, we know that they are positive. Sorry, negative. And for shoots, we know they are positive. Okay, so let's have a look at the shoot first. So these colors here are, so here you have, let's say you got some sunlight. Here you got some sunlight. Okay. Now, I'm going to put some letters down. Where would, so firstly, is the light evenly distributed? Yeah, you're probably right. Is the sunlight evenly distributed? Clearly not, right? It's coming in from the top only. So where are the auxins going to accumulate? Are they going to accumulate at position A, B, C, or D? Where are the auxins going to accumulate? Now remember, the auxin response for light counteracts where the light is coming from. So yes, you guys are correct. So it's going to be at C and D. Okay, I've kind of drawn this too close. I should have drawn it a little bit inside. Oh man, I ruined my drawing. Okay, so let's say I should have drawn them about there. And then under it is what? Are the cells, right? Okay. So where are the, so the auxins are on C and D. But what location are the cells going to be growing? Are they going to be growing at A, B, C, or D? So I'm going to write here auxins on lower side at C, D. So where's the growth going to be? The growth. It's all in the way that I worded it, right? Sorry guys, I was being a bit misleading there. So the growth is also going to be at CD. Mainly C, as you correctly said. Mainly C, but CD. Do you get the idea? Yeah, so for phototropism, auxins on shoots, it's on the same side. Okay? So for phototropism on shoots, auxins, the cells will grow on the same side that the auxins are. Are we okay with that? So now, because all the growth is happening right here, this uneven distribution causes the shoot to go upwards. Are we okay with that? The uneven distribution causes the shoot to go upwards. So let's talk about so this is phototropism. Tropism. Okay, so here we have a root. Okay, here we have a root. Now, for a root, or for gravitotropism, I've been saying this word the whole time. Gravitropism. You know what, we're going to call it geotropism. For geotropism, let's say, for example, all the auxins have accumulated here. Okay? So just a quick one, guys. for geotropism, auxins, do they have a positive response or a negative response? For geotropism. So wouldn't that be a yeah, good. So for geotropism, the auxins will have a negative response. Okay, so all of the hormones have accumulated at CD. Yeah. So here are all the cells that are affected by it. So it stops the growth. That means this side grows. Which side grows more? Which side grows more? Is it A, B, C, or D? Good. This side grows more. And then it grows downwards. Okay, so we said for geotropism, auxins have a negative response. So let's have a look at our table. Let's see what it said. So for geotropism, okay, so positive response, growth to. So hold on. What for geotropism? Growth towards or away from gravitational pull. Okay, so growth towards gravity. So if it's going towards, so in the roots, it's a positive response. Is that what we said, guys? For the roots, it's a positive response. Let's have a look. No, we said it was a negative response. So let's correct that. Where's my table? Okay, so positive response, growth towards gravity, and negative response, growth away from gravity. So basically, the growth, we don't. So what we will say, we worded this kind of wrong. We worded this really wrong. Let's write this down properly. So for geotropism, it's a positive response. But what on earth, what does that mean? What does that essentially mean? That means, so you can see here, so for geotropism, the growth towards gravity, so the positive response, that means, and then you got growth away from gravity. Hold on, where is our diagram? So you know how when we discussed this diagram here, we said where light goes, the auxins go on the other side. This is for phototropism. On gravitotropism, they will go on the side basically where growth is needed. They'll go on the side where growth is needed. So if you look here, auxins always go on the side where for phototropism where growth is needed. But for gravitotropism, they'll go on one side, but they'll have a different response. They inhibit growth. Does that make sense? So here, did they cause growth or did they inhibit growth? Auxins for the root. And I'll just pull up the information here. So remember, in roots, auxins inhibit cell growth. So I think that's where we got the negative mixed up. So in roots, auxins inhibit growth for roots. So can you see that, guys, in this diagram where we put the auxins, it inhibited growth, and the other side grew more. That's why it grew down. So basically here we wrote grew more for A and B, but for C and D there was reduced growth or inhibited growth. That's why we wrote negative. But yeah, but it's just a negative. It's a positive response, but it's negative in terms of growth. It doesn't cause growth. So yeah, we just got the words mixed up. But is that okay, guys? Does everyone understand that? Let me know. I think it was just a bit of a muddle up with the terminology there, but hopefully that makes sense. So I'm gonna draw a diagram. You're gonna tell me if you think it's a root or a shoot. Okay, I'm gonna draw a diagram. You're gonna tell me if you think it's a root or a shoot, and then I want you to tell me a justification. Are you guys ready? So I want you to tell me, do you think this is a root or a shoot? And then I want you to tell me why. The diagram is right. To an extent. To an extent. I want you to figure out, is this a diagram of a root or a shoot? Okay, so here we have some root or shoot. Light is hitting it. The auxins have gone towards the light. The auxins have gone towards the light, right? The auxins have gone towards the light. If it was a shoot and the sun was here, so I'm telling you this is a shoot, where would the auxins have gone? The auxins always go on the opposite side. Do you get it? That's what we know about shoot. The auxins always go on the opposite side. So what happens if the auxins go on the opposite side? It causes growth right here. And this will go up. Do you get it? But here, if we're claiming that this is a, if this is a root, what will happen? This will inhibit growth. So this will grow up. So you're absolutely spot on there, Adam. This diagram is all wrong. Does that make sense? Yeah, you could say that this diagram is basically a complete waffle. Okay. But if it's another thing you can say, if it's a root, yeah, if this is a root, where should the hormones be? If this is a root, where should the hormones be? On the lower side, right? Very good. So on a root, the hormones should be on the lower side. And if they're on the lower side, where is the growth happening? A, B, C, or D? Where's the growth happening if this is a root? So the auxin's at CD, but the growth is at AB. The growth is at AB, so it'll grow down because here growth is inhibited. Okay. You know what, Adam? I'm not gonna lie. When I drew that first diagram, I thought I was being intelligent and coming up with a good question. But no, you're right. You're absolutely spot on. The diagram was flawed. Okay. So does this make sense, guys? Are we happy with this? And by the way, roots don't really respond to sunlight, but so it's just like I said, a diagram full of contradiction. Guys, let me know in the chat if this helped you today. I hope it did. We are done with plant hormones, auxins and gibberellins. I'll stop the lesson recording there.